Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning. And today, we've got another combo out here that we haven't tried, and one that I've definitely got some decently high hopes for, or at least on paper, I'm thinking it should do pretty well, especially since this setup has done well with similar shells before, so we should be able to see some kind of a decent pattern today. So for the shell we've got out here today, it's one that Jack sent us, so big thank you to him for sending some of these over. But we've got some of the Winchester Longbeard XR shells out here again today. These ones are the 12 gauge, 3-inch, ounce and 3/4 of number 4 shot, moving about 1,200 feet per second. And a little while back, we did try some of the 1 7/8 ounce load of 4s in the Longbeard shells, and they did very well. So I'm thinking that these 1 3/4 shells should do pretty good, all things considered, through today's setup anyway. And as for the setup we've got out here today, I brought out the Mossberg 835 Ulti-Mag here, but as for a choke, I went with this one. This is the stock turkey full choke that this gun came with. It's right at about a 710 constriction, so a little bit more on the open side than some of your dedicated turkey chokes for this gun. But as for kind of your flush factory style chokes, it is in the extra full range since these 835s are overboard. And this stock 710 turkey full has done very well with a lot of loads in the past like this, especially the little bit larger shot size like 4s. Gives them a little bit more breathing room, which seems to really help. So I'm thinking we should see a pretty decent pattern through this today. But as for the test, everything is going to be the same as usual. I have the target set up at 40 yards. I also have the chronograph, so we'll be able to get our speed and see how close it is to the 1200 that's on the box. So let's get you guys a view of this target. We'll take our shot, look at our chrono, and then go down and see how they actually performed. Again, I have some pretty high hopes for this combo today, because on paper, it should do well, but there's only really one way to find out. So let's go over here and take this shot and see what kind of result we can get. Okay, that shell gave us 1171 through the chrono. The box claims 1200, so we are 29 under their claim, but I'd pretty much say we're right where we should be, because they probably tested it through a similar barrel length setup at the factory. And 1171 is pretty much right where I'd want to be anyway for these shells. Not moving too fast, not moving too slow, so everything looks pretty good as far as velocity goes. But how did they actually pattern down there at 40 yards? Let's go down and take a look. Alright, so now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and this is what we got. And before anything, we do absolutely have a dead bird. There are at least 3 or 4 down the spine there. So with 4s, absolutely would have hammered him. Now obviously, our pattern did favor a touch to the right, and I actually think that was probably me pulling this shot a little bit since it was the first shot of this morning. But either way, that's why we use the backer, so we can actually see our pattern. And as for that pattern, it looks really good, I'd say. You definitely have a nice hot core area right about there, with plenty of leeway still. I mean, you can see how far off we were there, and we still had a dead bird. So looking really good overall for a number 4 shot that I have not had the best luck with 4s, and these Longbeard 4s have by far been the best shell to have number 4 shot in it that I've tested anyway. Now our pattern isn't necessarily 1,000,000% perfect. We do see a couple little voids mixed in there, mainly that one right up at the top of our core area there, and a couple more just outside of the core over there. But either way, for 4s, you're not going to have the amount of shot in the pattern as you would in a 5 or a 6 shell. And those voids are definitely not super detrimental when you have a pattern like that. I mean, even looking at the outside here, we really have next to no flyers. I mean, there's nothing on the left, nothing on the top. And I mean, I guess maybe you could call 1 or 2 of these down here flyers, really, but they're still really not super out there based on where our pattern is. So that is pretty good looking, and honestly, I don't know that I would really want it any tighter than that. I mean, at closer ranges, you're going to have to be really on him, because that is a pretty tight pattern. I mean, that turkey paper is 12 inches wide, and if we scooted that over a couple inches, I mean, you would have a pretty much 12-inch section of leeway to work with there, which that's not as much as what you think it might be, especially in at closer ranges. But either way, the Longbeard 4s did well, the 1 3/4 ounce load did well, and that 835 with the stock factory 710 turkey full choke definitely is a very capable setup here. That would absolutely hammer turkeys out to 40 yards, and probably farther than that as well. So I'm definitely pretty impressed with how this performed overall here for a number 4 shell and a stock relatively open choke. Definitely think that was the way to go here, because 6, that would absolutely crush a bird, and I don't really know that I would want it a whole lot tighter than that. So definitely pretty good looking pattern today, I'd say. Okay, and here's the wad from that shell, and it's pretty much your basic, typical Longbeard XR wad. Nothing stuck down in there except a little bit of the buffer material they use. It opened up pretty evenly. I think it squished when it hit the ground a little bit there, so it's not perfect, but clearly plenty good enough. No rips, tears, snags, anything like that I'd be concerned with, and I definitely think it did what it was supposed to do through today's setup. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about that pattern right there? There's no doubt that that would absolutely hammer a turkey out at 40 yards, and you could probably push that to 45 and 50 as well with how tight that pattern is. And 4s, you're going to be carrying plenty of energy at that distance to clearly put the hammer down on a turkey, that's for sure. So definitely, I think we've got a pretty good looking combination here, that's for sure. I expected to see a pretty decent pattern, but I honestly wouldn't really want it any tighter of a pattern than that. You got 12, maybe 13 inches of leeway at 40 yards. You're definitely getting pretty tight, especially if you're hunting in at close range, that's for sure. So definitely, I think we've got a pretty hot setup here today. But as always, leave your thoughts in the comments. Is it about what you expected to see? Were you a little bit surprised one way or the other? If you shoot any of these Longbeard 4s, whether they be in an 835 or something else, how have they done for you? And is there another setup or choke that you might want to see these shells through? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got plenty more testing to film for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.